Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cross Commission podcast. My name is Jake Nazar. I'm joined by my good friend Saif Fakadu. The NCAA tournament is underway as we speak. We are recording this 7:40 Eastern Wednesday. Jacksonville's up 6-2 on Robert Morris in Moon Township, Pennsylvania. They made Jacksonville go to Robert Morris. Wow. Well, yeah, RPI. Yeah. Smaris is up 2-0 on Stony Brook. They're holding Stony Brook scoreless for the first 21 minutes of that game at Poughkeepsie. And they made Stony Brook go to Marist too. NCAA tournament, a very democratizing force, they always say. After an interesting, a once in a lifetime selection Sunday, let's call it that.
Historic.
I tweeted this out, Dave. I said this could be the last sort of traditional selection Sunday that we have. And I would honestly put the odds at 70% that this is the last selection Sunday of that type that we have.
Yeah.
The last selection Sunday where we don't know the teams making the tournament on selection Sunday.
So the metric wise, not the whole
they'll still do a selection show. They'll give us the matchups, all that. But we don't know all the teams making the field. Because no matter which system they switch to, which I do believe they're going to switch to a new system starting next year, I'll put it this way: 70% chance there's a new system for next year, 100% chance there's a new system by 2028. I don't think the RPI is long for this world, and we'll definitely have an off-season pod or two on the ramifications of that, which I don't believe are going to be what people want them to be. Sometimes it's better the devil you know. But we shall see, whether it's the MPI, whether it's power-wise, whatever it might be. I think that was probably the last of that type of selection show we'll see. And the NCAA leaked as they put it, some of the matchups onto their website.
It wasn't all 18.
It's just they leaked all the games they could. Let's put it that way. Like, we only leaked some of the games. Well, two of the games you didn't know yet. So you leaked literally everyone you could.
There is a part of me that hopes it was like a rebellious move by someone who's like 9:30's ridiculous start time.
Not all heroes wear capes. So yeah, selection show is done. We saw the committee chairs interviews with Patrick Stevens and Terry Foy, and I think reading that was my final. I was like, you know what? I think maybe I'm ready. I'm not sure I like all the outcomes that are going to come with PowerWise, MPI, whatever. But I don't think I can read too many more of these selection committee,
non-answers.
the non-answer, the complete inability to articulate reasoning. There was one with Virginia. It's like, why'd you see Virginia 5? It's like, we just felt by the end this is where we wound up.
It's like Ryan Cohen watched the selection Sunday. That's where he went with the information's on our website. What his answer at CNBC.
So it's like the inability to go. It's just these are not you're not telling me anything. It's like, what does that mean? So we'll see where that goes. But the tournament is upon us. First round this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, playing game as we talked about. One of the more probably, I would say, anticipated NCAA tournaments in a minute. It's been what people have kind of deemed a wide open season. I think quite a few people feel as if any of the 8-seeded teams could potentially win the NCAA tournament, which is a unique position to be in. Isn't always the case. But I think a lot of people did leave the end of this past weekend feeling like we did have a clear number one team. And indeed, the media poll after this is interesting, Safe. How many weeks this season was there a unanimous number one in the media poll?
Not the last 4 weeks, because so I guess maybe this week, definitely with Princeton number one.
Yes, so that's Princeton was a unanimous number one after this week. They got all 21 first place votes in the media poll.
And it is a testament to me and the other people who stood our ground. They didn't let that Irish pressure to sway our.
They're calling it a triumph of the human spirit.
It's listen, I'm not a hero, but if people want to use that word, I can't stop them.
All right, say if I got the other one. The two teams to be unanimous number one this season: Princeton and Syracuse.
I was going to say maybe Cuse after the Maryland
for 1 week. Syracuse was the unanimous number one. Other than that, we did not have a unanimous number one at any other point of the season. So it's an interesting position to be in. I'm seeing a lot of people's national championship predictions. I'm seeing a lot of Princeton, which is not an unfair take, but it is a bit like, can you really have a wide open tournament if everyone picks the same team to win the championship?
Insiders, yeah, definitely.
I've seen some Notre Dame too, but I think even then, it's how wide open can it be if you don't pick anyone outside the top two teams? It's an interesting conversation, I think. So we'll see. We've got a bunch of categories on tap for you tonight. I'll read them off, and we're going to go through them as we preview the 2026 NCAA Division I Men's Lacrosse Championship. I've got most interesting coaches. I've got most interesting players. I did send these all to you safe last night, so I didn't pull a Bill Simmons and spring it on you, like you would do with Russillo, just right on the fly. Best first round game. The Dan Campbell, this might have been our only shot rankings. Who has the most to prove? And Final Four game you want to see the most. So that's 6 categories. Unless you have anything else.
No, you sent them to me. I love them all.
Okay. I'll let you start. Where do you want to start?
I think we got to go coach.
Okay. All right. We'll start there. I'll even give you the first pick of this exercise as we list our most interesting coaches for the 2026 NCAA Division I Men's Lacrosse Championship. Safe, where are you going? I'll give you first pick. You're on tap.
Yep. There's so many. We love them. My Mads, my coach's club. To an extent, some of the even teams that don't root for Danowski's got his own allure, and I love Corrigan, the hair, everything that's going on in the line. I love that. I gotta go Lars. I gotta go
hey, I had Lars 4.
4. Okay. For me, just the arc. I mean, coming in kind of hot, after the Brown 10-year Final Four, we're like, what is this? What is this Virginia team doing? All the turnovers, helter-skelter kind of play. It's almost like, we're just going to play through it. And they wanted to. And then it really started to work. And then the 2019 year, just the turnaround after kind of the slow start, the usurpation. And then just him just being just the winner. For obviously, you have your own feelings. We can always say about the Maryland Virginia rivalry, but as a Hopkins fan, you go from Stars that kind of a little bit owning the series a little, for all these playing bully ball with Hopkins, towards the end, End State Stars, Petro kind of took more of the control and that little bit of a reascendancy that he had. But then it comes right back to Lars, and then they just win. They're winning titles. They're beating Hopkins. It's just for me, it's just we kind of love that little super. It was funny because we were both saying or maybe the chat, or maybe just me. I'll just own it. It's because I definitely made the NPR podcast host joke about it numerous times.
He started. It it was Glaude who called him a Bond villain.
Yes.
Lars Tiffany was a Bond villain there, which it is. Then you did the NPR podcast thing. I did the Malcolm Gladwell bit.
It's all over the floor, and he's just like you definitely put him in each of those buckets. Yeah, but like relentless optimism. I always reference Rob Lowe from Parks and Rec's character. Like he really does embody. Like there is like almost like threatening.
Toxic positivity.
You will buy in. You know, like so like that. Combined with the success, incredibly charismatic. And I was like, we may need to try to get him on the pod. Like, I think it would be like a 2.5 hour pod. He's like, you got any more? You know, like, I don't think like you let him go like in open fields like Deshaun Jackson, you know, it's just like, you know, with the ball and like you know, maybe just like one free safety in the way. Like, so all of that just to me, and this season, like, I don't want to say he was about to be run out of town, but it was the end of the contract. Even if you're not a Lars fan, like I think it would be tough to be like it's a little bit different than the Brushy thing because like the man's got 2 titles. It just goes to.
It was a very weird spot to potentially be in. I mean, if they had missed 2 straight tournaments and he didn't have a contract, it's a weird spot. Like.
We always say, I definitely point to the Petro thing. You're only as viable as your weakest moment. And if your weakest moment is at a time, it's also when your contracts, like a lot of people who didn't like, you know, weren't saying things. A lot of people like, this is their opportunity. Like, this is the time to like, maybe, you know, a lot of people start. And it's like the message boards, the Saber stuff. Like,
remember the Kerwin thing? Fire Lars to bring back Kerwin.
Yeah. And it's like
unbelievable.
And given again the amount of success, and there's definitely people on the other side that are like, you know, this is a lot of noise that like institutionally, like Lars is more than secure, and maybe that's just how Virginia's doing it. Like a lot of schools are cutting back, or like, you know, we'll sign it, we'll do it when we need to do it. You know, like no one's in a rush to spend money in academia right now, at any level. You know, so that, and it's just like the turnaround. And it definitely goes back to the Maryland game. And it's kind of such a dichotomy because I thought maybe that was going to be Maryland's springboard. But, you know, we definitely like made a couple of jokes, but it also was like, took it seriously. We're like, yeah, why not Virginia? Maybe they did actually find something. And then they just went on this run. Well, and it's just each step like.
That, though, the crazy was that it had followed the Towson game where. You know,
they were like, get out.
it was like a low point for the Lars era. Like it felt like. I mean, that Towson game they got punked.
It was, you know, one of the worst nights in Charlottesville in recent memory. So,
save that till Sunday, possibly.
To go from there, and it really was like just this, like.
Even another great point, what if they'd lost their first round game in the ACC tournament? Obviously they didn't. Obviously. But you know, they would have been in a weird position with the tournament. I think they would have got in, obviously, but Maryland beat them head to head. They would have been like 8-7. It would have been a weird spot to be in. You know, they would have come in losing their kind of they beat Drexel, but they would have lost like their last 3 games to top, you know, 10, 15-ish teams. And then they just boat raced the ACC tournament. I mean, Notre Dame. They trailed against UNC early. You know, like 2-0. But other than that, I'm not sure they really trailed at any other point. They beat Notre Dame by 5 and UNC by 10.
Yeah, almost beat Hughes. Like it was kind of Kill Bill 2 with you know, Matt Madsen's line or Michael Madsen's line. They're like, you know, that woman deserves her revenge. Like Lars deserves his revenge this season. Like. I really am so impressed. Like, you know, I make jokes and like love all our teams with real. You know, also the Rob Lowe meme with the NFL hat. Like, I love all the teams. I just want to see great game shape. But like, totally, like I'm just like in his corner now. I'm like, pay this man his money. Like, build the statue now. Like, especially if he makes the Final Four run. Like, I think it would be one of the almost like, you know, epic like. Story like I'm, you know, band who's done so much for an institution, kind of at his ebb. Not making the tournament last year, kind of a slow start, getting beat up, like even the Colgate game, Colgate was kind of still in that game, like in the fourth quarter. Like it's just the whole, and through the Catchhausen game, and from there, like just, I don't want to like overemphasize, but like I think it is like not a cult of personality, but like his personality like charges or like energizes this movement so much, because I think like you can't look at this guy and it's just like he still believes, and it's like I just think this is like a tremendous like turnaround for them, and if they make it to where I think they could make it at least to Charlottesville, the Memorial Day weekend, and maybe even Memorial Day Monday. Like I just like, because when it's now, it's like that momentum. It's like feels like they're just kind of like downhill running. Well, you're right, absolutely right. I wouldn't feel like they may not even make the tournament because you're right. Maybe Maryland like snipes them at the end with the head-to-head. But like going through all that, winning the ACC tournament, kind of like now just this lineup that we kind of predicted in March of like it'd be crazy, but like it's possible. Home game. Money round for Lars back to Charlottesville. Like, I mean, it's all laid out there for them, and for them to still be in this position after like where they were in like early March, like I said, it's incredibly impressive.
What if they lose?
First round, lose
like what if they lost? Now
Warren's revenge, absolutely.
That's what like the best ways for it to end are: one, he wins and he retires. he just walks off. Like he walked into the tunnel after the championship. We don't see him again. Like that's just it. That'd be incredible. Two, I think them losing in the first round would be kind of like unbelievable. Because like it's right now, it's like it's sort of like it's Pax Virginia right now. Like it's just where they're asking why one of the Millens isn't a Torreton nominee.
I was about to tweet free Brendan.
Listen, it is a fair argument. They're asking these questions. They're comparing Brendan to Connor Schellenberger with his freshman run. It's kind of like if they lost, the Saber. That's in the Saber. if they lost the first round,
almost as bad, maybe worse than Ohio State's loss last year in the first round. After all that, like, losing to Utah early, losing Maryland, beating them, and like win the Big Ten, like decent seed at home, Notre Dame, who you beat, like it just kind of felt like this was just an absolute egg in the first round. So I don't see that, but like, maybe, but maybe Georgetown's like, let's just shoot it out and see, who survives. Like maybe the Connors like really pop off. It could definitely happen. So 100%, like that disaster for this narrative that I've been spewing, but just still, then he still would be interesting. Like just what he would say after the post game, like about hubris, stuff like pride goes before the fall, like just some great stuff. I bet. So either way, like I think it's gonna be phenomenal. Like couple of weeks. I hope it lasts. To Memorial Day. I really think it'll be kind of really interesting, especially like if. I'm thinking like, obviously not to put you on the spot, but like when we're at the college stadiums, College Park was definitely a host, but Maryland, obviously Rutgers didn't win. I know they were a host for a bit.
Maryland lost. No, Maryland would just lose the. Maryland lost at least. Let me look it up. They lost like at least 3 championship games in First City.
At College Park?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Like that
was the Maryland story. Is that they would get to the Final Four, they'd get to College Park, they'd win the semifinal, and then it'd be 20,000, 25,000 Maryland fans, and then Bill Tierney would just dunk on them for
like I think I don't know if I ever hosted, but I'm trying to think of like teams that may have hosted that, but probably not like 20, 30, if ever. In the NCAA tournament.
They hosted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They hosted 10 Final Fours in College Park. Maryland never won any of them.
Yeah.
They lost in the championship. They lost in the championship game in '98. They lost to Princeton by 10. They lost in '97. They lost to Princeton by 12. They lost in '95. They lost to Cuse by 4. So in in a 4-year stretch, they hosted the from 93 to 97. The championship was in College Park every year. Maryland lost the championship game 3 times
Oof,
in College Park.
that's tough.
Yeah, it definitely is. Then they also lost the championship in Baltimore in 2011. So, yeah, it's a tough beat. So yeah, that's why I said on the pod on like Sunday night, I'm like, if they get to the Final Four, look, it'll be an incredible atmosphere. It'll be really cool to see. By no means a guarantee, is how I would put it. You know, that Princeton, if you want to put this, Princeton won 2 in Piscataway, also lost 1.
Well, I'm going to cheat here a little bit. I'm going on the Wikipedia. It's just a tournament. Houston went in the Carrier Dome, 88.
They also then lost in 91.
Yeah.
They lost to that UNC team, one of the great UNC teams.
I guess that would be because everything else is Piscataway, College Park, or Baltimore after the
last time Scott Stadium hosted the Final Four was 1982. Hopkins beat Virginia in the semifinal round. Also hosted it in 1977. Virginia didn't make the tournament that year. And then, Rutgers never made a Final Four any of the years that the Final Four was hosted in Piscataway. They made some of the tournaments, but they never made a.
Terps won at Homewood Field, 75.
Sure, we've won at Homewood. We've won in Philly. No, we haven't won at Philly actually. Won at Homewood. We won at Foxborough. Maybe we need to get the Final Four. We won at Foxborough and East Hartford. Maybe we need to get the Final Four back to.
True East Hartford. Let's try it. Yeah.
Let's try True East Hartford.
Let's really do it. Let's do it properly.
Let's do it this year. Just try this. The gas prices are even worse.
$4.75 in Jersey. I'm like, what's going on here? What's going on? There's a great comedian, I forget who said, but he's like, what am I going to do? The guys are like, I'm going to start walking. And that's usually how I feel. But yeah, I came in yesterday. I was like, what?
All right, I'll do I think Lars is good. I had Lars at 4. You made good points, and maybe I should have had him higher. My number 1 is Gary Gait.
Ooh,
I mean,
love it.
This is it, right? Like, I'm not saying this is the only chance they're going to get, because I don't believe that, but this is what it's all been building to. When he came into the job, a big anticipation of him coming into the job was this recruiting class. It was John Desko's parting gift. Desko booted out the door after he had basically put together this recruiting class. The number 1 recruiting class in the country. It was, and Gait has obviously done a good job with it. They made a Final Four. It's brought the program back from, that Gary's first season, they were 4? It was the worst season in team history. 4 wins. And then that freshman class came in, and it's been incumbent upon them for their entire run. It's a senior class that really has had probably more pressure on it and more put upon them than any senior class I can recall in a long, long time. And so now this is the final run. If they don't do it, and I think it's a couple things. It's one, it's that senior class that this is their final shot. It's the expectations that were on them, the expectations that they themselves, embraced and talked about winning a championship. It is, I think, a little the fact they made the Final Four last year. So this is now just the next step. Is once you've proven they've got the Final Four thing out of the way. They got that. Now it's, can you get to championship weekend or get to Memorial Day and win? It's the fact that we talked about this on Sunday. This team has no obvious weakness and yet still has frailties. It's not as if you can point to, is it their goalie? No. Is it their defense? No. They got multiple All-Americans. Is their face-off? Yes, maybe you could start to say that now with Mullen, but he's got a great track record over his career. The offense certainly no. And yet there's still kind of question marks, I guess you could say. That's a weird position to be in. And then I think also that kind of goes with this is that if they don't win the championship, I think you can look at this. You'll look at this senior class, and one thing I think you could say is that they never really had a great team, did they? If you think about it,
there'll be some critical Syracuse theory. You know what I mean? Like there'll be some revisionist, like looking back, like that one Final Four.
Now you won Final Four. To me, it's more that
and how they made it. Sorry, that's why they kind of undermined last year's run. Like, two back to back, like comebacks like that. Like so, yeah.
To me, it's never seeded higher than 5th, or was it 4th? What were they seeded in 2024? I think they were seeded 4th. I want to say, yeah. Never seeded higher than 4th.
No, last year 6th.
This year 6th. This year 4th. For a senior class, like as lauded as this one's been, and has had some great moments. Obviously, a Final Four. There hasn't been from start to finish. They haven't had a great full season yet. And now they can wipe that whole slate clean if they win the championship. No one will remember that they were never seeded higher than 4th. No one will remember that the loss, some of the 2 losses to UNC this year, or the Harvard loss, Harvard losses, or any of that. But if they don't win it, then I think people are going to kind of look at it and be like, wasn't there more there? Like, why didn't we see I mean, here's a great putting it. Desco during that mid 2010s period was still ripping off high seeds like almost every year.
Yeah, it was like 14-2. Like
they were a 2 seed in 2010 even when they lost in the first round. They were the 1 seed in 2011 even when they lost in the quarterfinals. They were the 1 seed in 2013 when they lost in the championship game. The 2 seed in 2014, again, disappointing first round loss. 2 seed in 2015, 2 seed in 2017. Like an 8-year stretch, they were a top 2 seed like 6 out of 8 years. I remember saying at the time, because this was when the Desco stuff first started to percolate, I was like, Hughes fans should be rightly feel frustrated that they've only made 1 Final Four in 8 years. But also, being a top 2 seed in the tournament 6 times out of 8 years is crazy. I mean, that's really freaking good. You don't see runs like that. Hughes hasn't had that. Had that 14-2 year, that 13-3 season. They've been really. They have run up against that ceiling pretty much at every time you feel like they're right about to break through. It's kind of knocked back down just a little bit. 2024, I remember they beat Hopkins in that game. If Hopkins won that game, I think they might have got the number 1. They won that game in Charlotte. That was kind of when they broke out their announcement, sort of. They beat Virginia in that crazy game in the Dome. And it's like, okay, this was it. Then they lose to Denver. Really weird game. Kind of gave it away a little bit, to be honest. Then last year, it kind of went the other way. Like Ryan infamously was ready. He was like, throw him out. and then they win the ACC tournament. They almost lose to Harvard. They have the big comeback. They do get to the Final Four, and they just get stomped out by Maryland.
Yeah, almost lose to Princeton. They come back. Like I'm saying, like.
Then they come back this year. They beat Maryland. They get to number 1, and they lose the next week.
Yeah.
And so it's just been this kind of jockeying. Of course, this year I mentioned haven't beat a top 5 team all season. They're seeded 6th. So, and I honestly, to get all back to why I chose Gate, I think he's the guy who's going to get the attention here. I think most people have kind of come around on Spallina a bit. I think he's kind of proven he's obviously the all-time points leader. He did take them to a Final Four. He's kind of answered those questions about can he, play great in big games. He's played a couple big Notre Dame games. The game against Princeton last year, he had a huge game. Great game against Maryland in the Dome this year. So Spallina's kind of, there's always going to be the lingering thing with him because of just his stature and his name and things like that. But I think he's kind of answered a lot of the questions. I'm not sure, at least, definitely for Cuse fans, I'm not sure Gate has. And I think if this team, definitely if they lose in the first round, because they can't lose in the first round. It's a Yale, it's in the Dome against the Yale team that is like, a bunch of like 17-year-olds. I mean, Yale's a bunch of freshmen going to their first tournament game, going to the Dome. You got to win that game. And then you got UNC like potentially going 0 for 3 in one season. It's like a 99 like Jacksonville Jaguars beat. They lost the Titans like 3 times. They lost in the SEC championship game. Like
Bresci's Triple Crown season.
And to the point I made earlier, we all think they have the offense. We all think they got a great goalie. They have a very good defense. Face-off play is maybe a lingering concern now with Mullen. The one thing that feels like wrong or off with them is just like the inconsistencies, the penalties, the up and down play. Kind of sometimes they get a little hot. They run hot on the boil. All of that sort of stuff is stuff you can point at coaching. It's not stuff about talent. It's stuff you can more point towards the coaching at. And I'm not saying I agree with this, but this is often a take that kind of happens. When you inherit a recruiting class, when you don't build it yourself, and when you inherit it, people are ready to ding you even if you win. It's like, oh, he only won with the last guy's players. Yeah. What you have to do is you have to imagine if you don't win. Lars was kind of in this position a little bit because those guys, some of those were like Ryan Conrad, Matt Moore, and those guys were like the end of stars, and Lars parlayed that into that championship, and then it was all right, well, Lars is cemented. Then he won it again. He had Connor and those guys come in. It was just rubber stamp for Lars. This was a class that I think a lot of people, I think they'll kind of look at and be like, he kind of got handed the class. And listen, you still gotta keep it together. You still gotta coach it, and he's coached it, and he's had a lot of success. But if they don't, I think the questions are going to be there as maybe as loud as they've ever been. If it doesn't happen, because there's only one thing left to do. Maybe at least then get to Memorial Day. Maybe that would take some of the heat off it. But I think they at least have to get to Memorial Day.
Oh yeah.
I think if they lose in the Final Four again, I don't know if that's gonna even if it's a close game. I'm not sure that's gonna get it off the bat.
I don't think it'll get Gate any slack if he only. But like, I think it will stave off like, what are we doing here? Conversation, because if they lose, God, if Shea pulls out something at home, then that's bad. It's a Henry Hill line. This is the bad times. If they lose to North Carolina, there'll be questions. They'll be like, why can't we beat this team that seems to be petering out a little bit towards the end to an extent, and they got 3 shots and we couldn't get one of them. Final Four. That's not what Cuse fans expect. They don't hang bangers for Final Fours. I'm sure in the Dome, they hang it for titles. But as we kind of always say, like, it's bittersweet if you have title hopes and lose Saturday.
Depends on how it goes.
Yeah, it is a blowout. It's just like Penn State lost to Duke. It was a blown call. Like, there's ways you can lose in the semifinals and like be up even more. Then obviously winning is more important. I'm not just going to say it's better, but like they'd be like, man, like people still talk about the Penn State Duke game. Yeah. Like just like it was rough, like that kind of. There's ways to and then like kind of take that into the off season and you're like, oh, people are still excited. Losing badly in the Final Four and not making it at all, going to be a lot of people talk again. Not so much, I think, Spallina, because as you I think last year proved a lot of that. Probably the odds-on favorite to win the Twarts, and like he's going to have some hardware did some really great things this year. Like, hey, the Cuse's away schedule, don't want to throw that with the bathwater. Like, thought that was a big step. Like, really impressed with what they did, and kind of turning it around, after the Princeton game, I was there. I was like, what's going on? This is not the Cuse I saw last week. And then, the turning around against Penn, and then finishing off that away stretch with sweeping it. So definitely a lot of progress, and that's how I think it will play out. Lose Final Four, decent game. Maybe something bad happens, and you're on the wrong side of a back haul. Spallino win the Twarton. People will still look back and be like, Gates class / Desco's class, 2 Final Fours. We want more, but we can't throw the guy out. Losing, like I said, and that's what I'm saying. If they lose, especially first round to Yale, but also kind of to North Carolina, or they get blown out in the Final Four, then I think there will be whispers of last year we kind of made it because of 2 miracle comebacks. Didn't really have much to say in the semifinal game. Same thing happened here. I think beating Carolina and getting to Final Four will give them some kudos, but losing badly definitely losing badly in Final Four may be worse than losing to Carolina, I think. Because then,
you're in the same. I think externally, if they make the Final Four, a lot of people would be like, "Listen, you made the Final Four,
Who's that?
Listen, if Maryland can miss the tournament, there's no more no one is immune.
There's no sacred cows.
Every single team has had a down, point. I mean, Virginia, Maryland, Notre Dame, and Duke are the 4 programs over the past, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 years. And all of them have missed the tournament this decade. So it's there's it's possible. It's, as you guys said, no one's ever going to make Hopkins, 41 straight tournaments again, at least until not until they expand the tournament or something. So I think, but internally, I don't know. I don't know if he's ever fully won them over. And so if you never fully got him on side, I'm not sure if another Final Four does it. I think it might really have to be at least the trip to the championship game. And a quote if they lose a classic in the championship game, what are you gonna do? So yeah, I think he was my number 1 for sure. You want to make another pick?
Little torn being Chamati and Shea.
Ooh, okay, do the shake. Make the shake case.
Shea also can't knock the hustle. Kind of built Yale into a national powerhouse. Kind of make a case he revitalized the Ivy. I think you could definitely Princeton and Cornell. But in the wilderness, Cornell was in there, 2013. They had a runs, but not the consistent, sustained dominance that both programs had for decades prior. And Shea just comes into Yale I forget exactly his first season. Yeah, 2003. We're looking at 23 years.
It took him a minute too. People, when he took that job, people were like, Andy, why are you taking that job? It's you can't win at Yale.
Yeah. First tournament was 2012. So nearly a decade. I don't want to say futility, but nearly a decade of Sisyphean getting up there, not making the tournament. Didn't make it. I remember early Yale. They were kind of an underdog. I remember the Chiefs games of the blue collar. Blue collar, absolutely. I felt Shea kind of did it. If I ever became coach of a big time Ivy school, I'd get the kids that maybe you help them get in. They'll buy into a loyalty and kind of just keep building. Little bit by little, and then the run that he had from 2012 through pretty much 2023. I know they didn't reach the same heights, but consistent NCAA tournament appearances. Got 4 quarterfinal appearances: 2013, 18, 19, and 22. I was in the Zenith 2018 and 2019 with the title run, and then the runner-up. I mean, I think you could make a case definitely woke up Harvard, because this is there's probably one thing Princeton and Cornell. Now your biggest rival was like on the Final Four stage, like winning. Like this is definitely probably a Harvard alum. Like, what's going on here? Why don't we have this? And like just where he had that program, Uncle Joe. We make jokes about Joe's side, but I would love a booster like that at Hopkins, like all in like that for sure. I'm sure like you wouldn't mind it either. Somebody's just like, I got the check. What do you need? Like details. Like I'm sure both of us love that. It just, and then you keep using usurped a little bit, but Princeton come back hot. Cornell with Connor, like really on the scene, and this is like kind of felt like the Yale moment was, I don't want to say extinguished, but overshadowed for sure with the return of the Giants. And I really feel like this year, like maybe like Princeton, not Princeton 22, because Princeton 22 was a dominant year, but Princeton 22 was still like, wow, these guys are really young. I think they're really going to be. And like that Yale team in 2022 was kind of like favored. There's still the Yale of Yale, even though without the COVID seasons. And that definitely was like kind of, sliding doors moment for those programs. Because I think if Andy comes back Final Four in 2022, you're just like kind of keeps Princeton at bay for a bit, maybe like, who knows, them versus Maryland. I think Maryland, the dominant team, probably would have won just as easily, or not easily, but he would have won just the same. But like, they're still on the block, and right there, Cornell obviously it's a title game, but like, two Ivy League teams, Yale's there, push Princeton, stiff on Princeton, got back, Shea's back on the Yale's, and then maybe that just changes things, and then maybe that changes the defense, the things are wilderness. But my main point is like that Princeton team, I always say like always better be ahead of schedule, get there before like people expect it.
That's the key for this. This is such a young team.
Yeah,
like this Q and Yale is like the opposite. I mean, Yale is literally Patrick Pisano, their number one defender, would be, on the way out. I think he's in the transfer portal for 2027. But like, you look at their leading scorers: sophomore, freshman, junior, freshman, sophomore, junior. Their entire offense is going to be back next year at the faceoff dot. They've got sophomore and a freshman. Again, like even some of their long poles, they're a little more experienced. Their goalie, Ben Friedman, kind of first real experience for him this year, had a fantastic season. Like if they could somehow pull an upset, I think they'd probably be getting preseason top 5 kind of conversation for next year. It would change. It would propel them in a significant way. Whereas if you lose, I think they'll be a good team again next year for sure. But if you get kind of stomped out and you're in the dome, there's no shame in it. But as you would say, you always want to do a little bit more. It's like, yes, if you get stomped out in the dome, no one's going to be like, man, that was rough for them. But they'll really speak well of you if you like give them a game, or if you win.
Better, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think to your point, yeah, it's like that's the big thing. It's like this is such a young team that they've got probably another 2 cracks with this team. And so if you could get to a quarterfinal, that'd be gigantic.
And that's kind of why I always like say that, because like you almost don't know to be intimidated or afraid. I'm sure there's jitters, I'm sure, and stuff like that. But like when you're that young and haven't had failure in the tournament, and you're just like kind of get this, revitalization by making the tournament. Obviously there was no suspense because the brackets were leaked. But I'm sure if that wasn't leaked, that Yale like shot would, they explode. Just because like, oh, we're back. But and I think like again, I don't have the lines in front of me. Like they just should. They need to win this. For a lot of reasons. But like, yeah, like. I'm trying to remember what was the year that they played in the first round. Was that
2017? That was the year Yale was the only Ivy team to make the tournament. That's why Yale got sent to So that was a close game too, 1-goal game.
That's I'm saying. Like, if it's that game where you had the fourth quarter lead and let it go, like, definitely bittersweet. But that goes to your point. Like, that's just like kind of motivating. No one really believes in you. Put it on them. Even better if you come out with a win. And it's like, not saying that, like, look out, this is my upset pick, but it's just like, especially because how Syracuse plays in the Dome, like, that's just going to be really tough. But it's just like, if they can just make it a game of it and or even better win, like, yeah, I think, like, really changes the conversation about Yale. And goes kind of back to your point of, like, coaches don't regain the fastball.
Yeah.
Besides Lord Tyranny. Once you kind of lose it, kind of doesn't come back, or to that same extent. Petro's maybe found himself a little bit with a defensive coordinator position, and maybe that could happen. But yeah, it's not that dominant, like, guy. Yeah, but this could be it. Like, if this Yale team with Shea, like, kind of catch it, and I think, like, he was a victim of success because, like, once they won the back-to-back, got rated for all his assistants, like, kind of in the wilderness with the defense for a little while, kind of wasted those super potent offenses that they had. We always said, like, it's one thing to win, it's score 15, but, like, if you're giving up 16, 17 every game, it doesn't really matter. So, like, feels like this kind of, like, righted the ship, especially with defense much better than, years prior. Offense, definitely, the states can recruit, the hitters. So that's why I kind of feel it's interesting. Like, the kind of a Kevin Costner as a, aging starting pitcher, with this, for the love of the game or whatever those titles were, like, it's like, but, like, with Shea, like, it's not really age is an issue. The guy's still relatively young for Division I coach, compared to, like, the Oregons and stuff like that. So, like, this could be, like, the rebirth of the program. And I'm not giving them, they're not my upset, but it's just like, I don't know if Cuse wants to play with that, like, I know they didn't give Princeton an end game in the tournament, but
it's like, Cuse should win this game by, there should be no,
it should be like 4 or 5. They should, like, I think, like,
not even a, like,
at the Dome, like, get it rocking.
You're at the
But
Dome.
that's why I feel like
it's a young team. Yale's not going to win a ton of faceoffs. It shouldn't be. Cuse is a 3.5 goal favorite. That's the 4th biggest. We don't have Princeton or Notre Dame. But Princeton or Notre Dame are the 2 big ones. UNC is a minus. Look, Cuse is the 6th seed, and they are a bigger favorite than Virginia or Richmond are in their first round games. That kind of says it.
What's Richmond? 1.5?
Richmond's a minus 1.5 goal favorite. Okay, I'll tell you.
That may be my upset pick.
UNC is a 6.5 goal favorite over Albany.
Ooh.
Penn State is a 2.5 goal favorite over Army. Cornell is a 2.5 goal favorite over Hopkins. Richmond is a 1.5 goal favorite over Duke. Syracuse is a 3.5 goal favorite over Yale, and Virginia is a 2.5 goal favorite over Georgetown. By the way, just showing out the scores. Jacksonville has a 10-3 lead over Robert Morris. The Dolphins. Jacksonville Notre Dame could be an interesting one. I think Notre Dame's going to win, but Jacksonville's going to put up a really they're not going. That's not going to be one of those. Okay, I'll turn this game off in the first quarter. I think they can hang around that one for a minute. In the other, Marist and Stony Brook. Marist was up 5-3 at last check. It's currently 6-4 Marist in the third, midway through the third quarter. So I don't know if you knew this. The MAC team has not won a play-in game since your Quinnipiac Bobcats.
Oof.
In 2016. They beat RIP Hartford 14-9. That was the year Hartford beat Albany in the America East tournament and got in. They lost. Since then, the MAC has lost 7 straight playing games. So it's been 10 years since a MAC team made the field of 16.
What was was it 2017, the year they played Cuse? Marist?
No,
You remember that year?
It was 2015. Yeah, it was 2015.
So I guess 2015 and then
Yeah, 2015 was Marist. 2016
so back to
was,
back. Yeah, but before that,
and then they've lost 7 in a row. But currently Marist is up 6-4 on Stony Brook.
Listen, I saw Fox yesterday on my run in Princeton, so it's just like I should have put it on the Marist.
All right. I'll throw a few more safe. My number 2 is Joe Bresci.
Joe the boss? Of course I know.
I mean, if the contract and everything, if they don't get through a Cuse team, look, they got a great draw. They're a huge favorite over Albany. They've beaten Cuse twice. I guess you could put it from the perspective of you don't want to have to beat a team 3 times. I do think I hate trilogies in the quarterfinals. It's dumb. But talk about pressure for next year. All those guys, Duffy, Wambach, Petro as seniors, maybe have to make staff changes. If I think Petro will definitely be very receptive to head coaching opportunities once his sons are gone. So yeah, and then we're just like it feels like we're back on the clock again. Like it basically puts all the pressure on with the 3-year with the way these now again. It doesn't seem like he's under any pressure really, since he got the extension when he did. But it is sort of like if you don't do it this year, all the pressure's on next year. If you don't do it next year, it's probably not going to be 28, and then we're just right back in the same spot. So I think there's a lot on him. I have Connor Busick number 3.
Oh, all right.
If Connor Busick could make the Final Four, or make back another Final Four, we talked about this on I think the Friday show. I think he really puts himself. He really starts to separate himself, especially among coaches of his age bracket, which he kind of already has. If they win the title, then he goes back to back, which I think they could. Like I'm not. I think they have I would give them the. I think maybe 4th or 5th best odds. I think it's definitely on the table for them. I'm not saying it's likely. It's something not likely, but if they could do that, he's in just different. He's really starting to. He's there hasn't been a coach. Think about this. He was the youngest coach. When he made that championship game. He was the first year coach to do that since Desko. If he can get to 2 titles at that age, nobody's done that. And Lars had been around the block. Lars, for 15, 16 years as a head coach before he got his second title. Corrigan, waited forever. Tills, second title came kind of like 10 or again 13, 14, 15 years in, but in his 50s. Dino, long time. Desko is like the last coach that Starja waited for a while. It's the comparable would be like Desko's situation. And even then Desko was older when he took over the. No one's ever won. No one's ever won 2 titles as young as Busick is. At least not since the early days. That'd be so. I think he's an interesting kind of name to look at in that regard.
63-19 since 2022.
Pretty good.
And you look at his postseason run, runner-up, first year at the gate, just tremendous effort. Hit by that Michigan buzzsaw, 2023.
Yeah. I thought that team
lost by 1. I would give him that was a tough Duke team in the next round, but
I don't know.
Everything had to go wrong for them to not make the 2024 tournament, and they did all go wrong. 2025 win it all, lose transcendent, generational player, and still be in the mix, win the Ivy regular season, have one of the few wins against Princeton, once they actually had a game under their belt, and potentially could make another return, beat the coach that he replaced at home, Notre Dame team. I don't know if Notre Dame wants to see this Cornell team, and then if they win, and then another Final Four. Yeah, no, you're right. 3 Final Fours since 2022 at that age. And again, program deeply rich in history and stuff like that, but still probably 11 or just between like 8 and 11 of like top programs in terms of resources and everything like that. Like, I think he would be positioned himself to be the best coach, and even if he didn't win the title, if it makes another Final Four run, like
he's in that conversation for sure. And I think the big part you mentioned, like losing that because that was the one like question you could hang over him was he had a generational player every year he'd been at Cornell. Gavin Adler, Gavin Adler for the first 3 years, Crosse for last year as well, and all 4 years. I mean, listen, he's still got Goldstein and Firth are great players. That's more like if you get those guys, that's just what you like. That's just good recruiting, Like they're great talents. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like you don't get those guys every off. Like Crosse was like man, you're not going to get one of those. Adler, same thing on the defensive side of the ball. Goldstein Firth, I mean, if you're capable of recruiting, I mean, Cornell's had those guys, that kind of, those kind of attacking talent. Willem Firth, Towarton nominee. I mean, that's great company at Cornell. Firth, Jeff T was a Towarton nominee in my book.
In the streets, yeah. People's champ.
Jeff T was the best player in the country in 2018. Rob Pennell, Max Seabold, so that's serious. That's serious company there. Yeah, those are mine. I had Corrigan and Larson like the same spot, just because the chance to get to 3 titles. Etchmai down there. Tams always is kind of in this mix, just because he's top of the list you don't want to be on. Madeline, obviously could sprint himself, but and I had Dino down there as well. You mentioned about could Dino get up? You never know how many more cracks he's really got at this. So and 4 titles is Ty Starja. So all right, Safe. What do you want to go next? We got most interesting players, best first round game, the Dan Campbell, who's got the most to prove, Final Four games.
Let's go best first round game, just because we probably have a lot, and then we can kind of the rest of them kind of like flow into each other. There's a couple I want to choose from. I do think Hopkins Cornell should be, I think, the best, or most game with maybe the most theater potentially, just because return of Milliman to Cornell and Hopkins, I think everyone's kind of picturing Notre Dame coming out of this bracket, but I just think it could be a really good game. The other ones that I think Penn State Army could be fun. Virginia Georgetown, just like what Warren has had to go through, these last 4 years, having to play Virginia, that to me was just maybe just because of our level, having followed Georgetown's kind of the inability to escape out of the quarterfinals, but against Richmond Duke, just because there's a thing here where I feel like Richmond definitely has earned the high seed, proven that they're one of the best teams in the country, merited number 1 ranking at the time that they had it, and is one of the best teams. They beat Cornell, they beat Virginia, they beat Georgetown, they beat they may have beat Maryland if they got to play, but there's also it's Duke team that everyone kind of left for dead, and then is able to come off the gurney, beating North Carolina, not doing anything. That last weekend is probably the best thing for them, and getting into the tournament as not even the last team in. Honestly, maybe the second or the second to the last team in. So, and it's just it's still Duke. There is such talent, and maybe Dano knew exactly what he was doing. He was just I'm just going to let this team marinate. I don't need to schedule teams that they're, we're going to have the top teams in our conference at the end of the year. We're going to have that, non-conference game with Cornell. We're just going to play what we hope to be competitive top 20-ish teams and they hopefully fall, and that that didn't really happen the way that they expected. But like, yeah, they Jacksonville is a tournament team. They beat North Carolina. So, and it's just like maybe it is coming together. Like I felt like something in that North Carolina game. It was a rivalry game. It was backs against the walls. Essentially, a playing game for Duke. So like that's all in there. But it's just like maybe like just that euphoria being your biggest rival, just the way they just jumped North Carolina, especially in that second quarter. And it's just like, maybe they really did find something. And just like, I don't know if I want to be Richmond. I know, they're not just giant killers. They're potentially could be on their way to being one of the Giants, like if they keep doing this year in, year out. And they have the resources to do that. They got the coach to do that. But it's just like, do you really want to play like team that's kind of maybe found something that has all that talent that has played you this year, but is familiar with the program. Dino's familiar with Chamati. So there is a part of me it's just like, what if like Duke just takes the underdog mentality, like no one believes in us. We're playing at their stadium. They're the high seed, and like Duke just kind of plays.
How good do you think Richmond is?
Listen. Look, I was a bit of a downer when me and Mark were talking about them potentially getting the 1 seed. I was like, let's see them beat Notre Dame first. Yeah, and then that Notre Dame first quarter felt like because I don't discredit what they did. They beat Georgetown, they beat Virginia, they beat Cornell. Those are really big wins, especially the Virginia win looks even better now. With the way that Virginia played. Different Virginia team. Not just saying like, you played when you played, the scoreboard is the scoreboard. I'm not trying to like change that. It's just like, this is a different Virginia team, literally months later.
Beat Cornell in Ithaca.
Beat Cornell. And I think maybe with Cornell, they could probably, you kind of said, you kind of tie up or like restrain their two big hitters. Cornell could have some problems. But that's why I feel it's just like, little bit of not mirage, but like kind of like A-10 schedule pounding teams.
So do you think they're a top 4 team?
No.
Okay, and if you don't that's the thing. Because if you think they're a top 4 team, they should beat Duke, and I don't think they should be afraid of them. I'll pose the thought here. What if Duke isn't actually that good?
Okay.
I'm just like. This whole thing with Duke has been, to your point, it's this whole Duke thing is basically they beat a UNC team when their season was already over. Like in the UNC game, like it basically went into it as like Duke's season is kind of over. UNC is already qualified for the ACC tournament, and like they won that game. And yes, it looked great. Other than that, the Duke after that you get past that UNC game. The next best results for Duke are all losses.
No, well, if you count the first half,
that's my point. Once you get past the UNC game, it's like, man, they played really great in the first half of those games. Like, has Duke played 2 really good games back to back this year? I guess it's the Notre Dame game into the Carolina game.
Yeah.
Like, here's the once you get past that early slate, once you go from like even the Denver game. I mean, Denver was even if we count the Denver, like in ACC play, they scored 15 against Cuse. Then they scored Duke has not scored more than 10 goals in 2 straight games since they played Air Force and Providence.
I mean, and one, yeah. I mean, they did get 10 against Virginia and 15 against Cuse.
Yeah,
efforts. But your point is more than valid. I would say the Cornell game was one part where I was like, this team is not that good. When they couldn't score one goal in the fourth quarter to like, and because I was like, I was hoping they covered, for other reasons.
2 goals in the second half.
Yeah, and the 0 in the fourth, and I was just like, what is going on? It felt like this was the game to like, the non-conference game that they can like be like, we got one, stop talking about us, like that type, and it just didn't pull it off. And then going back to this Notre Dame 6-7, I mean, just bad efficiency, not a great offensive efficient day. But yeah, then no, I hear you. But that's a little bit the same way I would have felt if Maryland got it, and Maryland's playing Richmond. It's just like there's an element of bully ball that I think there's still a difference between some programs. And again, not to diss Richmond, they won these games this year. Like, but again, not playing that type of not playing that level of week in and week out in the last half of the year.
Notre Dame can bully you. Virginia at one point in time could bully you. You know, I don't see any of these other ACC teams that think they bully. I don't.
This is how this is a better way to articulate it for me. It feels like
Notre Dame is very, but among these other ACC teams, there is a bit of like, let's roll the ball out and and that works when you have elite talent. And there's talent on this Duke team for sure. A lot of it's young. I guess my point is this: if you're in your position, you don't think Richmond is a top 4 team, then sure. I mean, this is a difficult first round game. I see a lot of people who are like, Richmond should have been seeded 3. They shouldn't have to play Duke. I'm like, if Richmond is as good as you think, and I agree. I think Richmond is that good. I think Richmond is a top 5 team. But you know what? They should beat Duke. We can't do the thing of, man, Duke's really lucky to even be in the tournament. They didn't play anybody. And also be like, man, Richmond's got to be really afraid of Duke. You have beaten Virginia twice in consecutive seasons. You beat Cornell. You beaten Georgetown a bunch. Georgetown didn't beat Duke in the first round last year. You've beaten Duke before. I don't think they should be afraid.
No,
I think if you are, to me, what makes this interesting is that either yes, Richmond will prove to be not as good as we thought they were, or at least I thought they were. Maybe different for you. There's definitely a bummer in that. I think for the cynical amongst us, that kind of would be a lot of ammunition. And then it would prove that okay, maybe this Duke thing, definitely is capable of going somewhere. Or maybe Richmond is as good as we think they are, and they just beat them. In which case, at that point, why can't they just go beat Virginia again? And why can't they make the Final Four?
Listen,
and I think that's what is interesting to me, because if you're coming, to me, the whole debate about it, I saw a lot of it. It's like Richmond shouldn't have to play Duke. It's like, to me, it all depends on your view of Richmond. If you think Richmond is a top 5 team, which I do, I think they're going to beat Duke. If you don't, then then at that point, it becomes a much different game.
I guess my hesitancy is just not about the program. I think offensively they can pour it on. Bit concerned, like post Notre Dame, it wasn't like a fraud alert or anything, but the Notre Dame game was like, oh man, let's maybe let's not crown them yet, And then going to the A10 play, obviously Cook, St. Bonaventure, but aside from the High Point game that they dropped 19 and won by 9, kind of close games in A10 opponents, and that's just my thing. It's just like Duke is a top 5 defense now. And I think they really have a new I like the ride. I like the pressure that they put on teams. Like, I think it's a different, Duke, defensively, kind of a little bit meaner and stuff like that. Definitely had some great players in the past. But it's just we'll be the first top 10-ish team that they played defensively, if you take out Notre Dame, since Georgetown. Cornell's not top 10. Virginia's 12.
Crosse pretty darn good.
Oh yeah, for sure. Again, these are just not. I'm just going by the numbers. So shout out Max Rapp. But it's just first top 5 defense they played since Notre Dame, and take out Notre Dame.
On the flip side, for Duke, the only Duke has scored on 2 teams offensively, Syracuse and Carolina. Carolina's 21st in adjusted defensive efficiency. Syracuse is 14th. That was also in the Dome. Richmond is 9th. Duke against top 10 defenses this year. Notre Dame, 6 goals. Richmond, or they haven't played Richmond. If you look at the one top 10 defense Duke played, they scored. Denver's 3rd. They scored 8 goals. So against the 2 top 10 defenses Duke played, they scored 6 and 8 goals. I think you can go kind of both ways. Here's when do you think the last time? When do you think the last time Richmond's trailed in a game was?
Notre Dame?
Yeah. So that's part of it to me of like the the A-10 games are closer. It's like they also literally have not trailed in any of those games. Like the St. Joe's game, the first game, 13-11. Yes, they led basically. It was tied for a little bit the whole way. The UMass game, which was 11, like they were up 7-2 in that game in the first half, and the St. Joe's game which was also sort of in there, they led 8-4 after 3 quarters in that one. I don't know. To me, it's like I feel like we're kind of we're finding a lot to poke at them if we're like they're kind of close games in A-10 play. I mean, like they have been for sure. The Notre Dame game is not encouraging. I will say that game wasn't over. Like they got back into that game. It was like at halftime it was like 8-5. I mean, it wasn't as if that game was like done and dusted for the second half, and it was just pure garbage time. Like that game was reasonably still. At the end of the day,
if you only took the last 3 quarters, they won.
Listen, we did that with Princeton against Penn. If we're gonna do it, Princeton, like, listen, if you just take out the first quarter, they were really in that game. It's like, I mean, if you take out the first quarter against Notre Dame, they outscored them. They outscored them 8-4. But yeah, they got that game to within 3 goals at different. Again, 3 goals. It's not, they didn't have the ball with the chance to tie or take the lead. And that's always kind of my, barometer. But yeah, I think this game is interesting. I think it's interesting to me from the Richmond element. And I guess for Duke, no, I think Duke, the defense for sure is very good. And that's what they're going to hang their hat on if they're going to go. Has this offense put it together? I don't know. I guess I need a little more from this is still an ACC team, Like, to be like, their offense played really well against North Carolina. It's like, all right, like, can they prove it to me for another week? Can they put 2 weeks together? I think I gotta see it. I do think it'll be a defensive, but like for Richmond, their offense again ranks number 1 in the country in offensive efficiency, even above Princeton. And so, do I think it's as good as Princeton? No. But I guess, look, if you view it from the perspective of, do you think Richmond's a better team than UNC, or do you think UNC is better? Now, this is
which UNC? Free contract, free contract. Post contract.
I mentioned it. Like, when did the contract get signed?
It was. I feel it was like after the Hughes win. I think that was peak North Carolina this year. They detonated Harvard, won the Army game, the Penn State game the week prior.
So the contract extension came before the Cuse game.
Right before, yeah, that was kind of peak Cuse, Carolina. Then they won Cuse. I think they became number 1 after that, and then they lost to Notre Dame.
Okay, here's the stats for you, Safe. So this is actually good because the Harvard game is the last game they played in March. In April, in February, their offense efficiency was 38.5%. In March, it was 36%. In April, it was 34.4%. It was 28.5% in the ACC tournament. That is a trend. Defensive efficiency, 27% in February, 21.5% in March, 28% in April, and 28% in May in the 2 ACC games. Face-off win percentage, 64% in February, 81% in March against Princeton, Brown, Penn State, Army, and Harvard. That's 4 NCAA tournament games. Brady Wambach was averaging 81% adjusted face-off wins.
They were incredible. Plus 13 adjusted possessions. I mean, they were just feeding.
Here we go. Against Prince, they were plus again, in the Brown, Penn State, Army, and Harvard games, they were averaging over a span of plus 15 a game.
Yeah. Listen, it was all happening. It was all happening through March. Like,
so
it was.
I guess my thing on that is, to your, I guess if we're saying pre-contract, it's like they were plus 10 in possessions against Penn State and won by 2. They were plus 12 against Army and won by 1. Is it really is really that the team has gotten worse, or is it just that Brady Wambach went from being invincible to simply human? Now, I do think some of it, like the defense, I do think has with
it's a combination of the two. Defense started loosening up. He was still getting 70% in those 4 games in April. So, that Hughes, Notre Dame, Virginia Duke run, he was still getting. But then, with your point, you go from 21% to 28% adjusted defense efficiency. Like it's going to yield some points.
64%. He was 64% against Penn State, 78% against Army, and 85% against Harvard. Since then, 63, 44, 70, 58, 54, 48.
Yeah, that's not a good trend.
That's just mortal. That's still good considering the quality of the opposition. But are they a team with him being just good? That is, because again, you look at their, offensively 11th, defensively 21st, save percentage 27th. I think from that perspective, it's fair is that. Now listen, here's the thing. I'll be honest. I think it's hard to make an argument for Richmond getting. It's not hard, I should say. UNC beat so many good teams this year. It's not like UNC. If UNC had Virginia's resume, I would say Richmond should have gotten the 3 seed. UNC has a crap ton of top 20 wins. It's not. Yeah. I see the argument, but I'm not if Richmond had got the 3, I would have been fine with it. But it's Carolina beat 5 top 10 teams.
Yeah, even the February games. I mean, Penn was still top 20 team. Hopkins got, they beat the Hopkins game.
It's tough. It wasn't a obvious case where Richmond, but nonetheless, I do see it from that perspective of Richmond was if Richmond gets the 3 seed, their path to the Final Four feels wide open. Albany and then Cuse potentially. That feels like a wide open path. Now it feels like you got to go through Duke and potentially Virginia. But then to me, it's still is Richmond as good as we think? If they are, they got to beat Duke, who's a good team. I'm not, and it's a tough defense. It'll probably be a physical, low scoring, 10, 11 goal game. But that's still kind of Richmond style. That's where they're kind of comfortable. And then yes, you have to play Virginia or Georgetown again. You still beat them. Is it a much different Virginia team? Yes, for sure. No question. You beat them 2 times in a row. And, I think Virginia's obviously playing much better. That offense is super imposing. To me, I just look at Richmond if you're top 10, are you a legit top 10 team on both sides of the ball? Then all of these matchups for them, I think, should feel more than winnable because none of these teams in that quadrant are none of them are great none of them are great face-off teams. Duke's good. Virginia's not bad. Georgetown, Ross Prince is kind of banged up at different points. That's gonna hurt them. None of them are overwhelming. You're not going to face a big possession disparity against any of those. And then on the goalie side, Duke a little up and down with the goalie play. We've seen it kind of be a bit of a we've seen Duke, have both, have some good games and it's bad against Buck Cunningham's kind of come in. Jameson. So there, Anderson Moore for Georgetown is really good, but he can be a little up and down too. So I just think from that perspective, it's there's none of all these games in this quadrant to me are going to be won in the. I don't think the difference is going to be made through the specialty positions. It's going to be who's the better team in the half court, and then maybe with your point, maybe the ride will come in some play, things like that. But I don't think any of the whereas the UNC one is going to be like that's the UNC one to me feels like that the difference is all going to be in goalie play and face-offs. Like I think that's going to be the huge differentiator. So if you're Richmond, you are a top 10 team on both sides. I think this is still an open path. It's difficult for sure, but it's definitely open.
Listen, they're favored for a reason. They got but your point about North Carolina, North Carolina bet 7 tournament teams, not just top 20 RPI teams. So they definitely can't just ignore that, and they deserve their seed. But I just this conversation, the fact that it's like, again, not that I don't think Richmond is a top team, but like for me, the top 4 were pretty locked in with Princeton, North Carolina, Syracuse, and Notre Dame throughout the year, and like Richmond was in that conversation. And
I guess to a Richmond fan will make the counterpoint. If you're Cuse, can you really be in the top 4 if you don't beat any of the top 4?
No, and that's what kind of was saying. That's kind of what I guess what I was getting at with like Richmond, like they're 5th or 6th, and if against those 4, I think I would go with those 4, and not that Duke is one of those 4.
That's where I don't know. I'm
free contract, no caveat.
As the season's going on, I don't know that I actually really feel as strongly about Carolina or Cuse and like that. Like, I don't know that I really feel as strong as we've got the balance. I don't know that I. And then I guess to me, it's like, is it really a top 4? Or is Princeton better than all of them?
No, Princeton. I mean, you and I have had them number 1 for a month.
I think we settled on like there being this like 4 or 5, and as the season's kind of going on, I'm like, well, Cuse isn't even seeded in the top 5 now. Virginia's kind of come through. I mean, is Virginia the second best team in the ACC?
No. Yeah.
I mean, that's
maybe the best. They beat
Notre Dame twice. They beat Notre Dame twice. Yeah. Like, so I think I don't know. I think I was with you. Like, I don't know that the top 4 is. And Richmond. So listen, Richmond also hasn't played as well as they did in February, March, but I think they've maintained a pretty high level of play, and I think they've done as much as they could to kind of prove themselves. And obviously at this point, this is where you really prove it. Virginia, Georgetown, I had number 2. Sunday night, Klockner. It's gonna be a madhouse. Can Georgetown? This is where Georgetown plays their best game of the year. Is in this kind of first round. And they've gone on the road and they've beaten Duke last year. Can their offense, can the Connors, the offense for them really, I quite like, to me, is going to be about the midfield. What can their midfield, everyone's going to key on the Connors. Can the Connors gravity create opportunities? And Virginia defensively, I think when I look at Virginia defense, I think they kind of go as Jake Merritt goes. And when he plays great, they play great defense. He made 12 saves against Notre Dame, and he made 18 saves against North Carolina. So he saved 30 of 46 shots in the ACC tournament. That is pretty good. But to be exact, it's 65%. I mean, if he's going to save 65%, Virginia's going to the Final Four. That much for sure. But there was the Cuse game in the Dome where he only made 3 saves, and they gave up 14. There was the Carolina game where they lost 16-15. He made 14 saves, played a lot better in that one. But nonetheless, if you look at their last, in the Duke game, he saved 13 of 13 to 23. In that first Notre Dame, he saved 11 of 20. The Notre Dame and Duke games were the great defensive performances that they put up. But to me, I think they do they give up some chances, is what I'll say. Like, they'll give up some opportunities defensively, and when he's locked in and he's saving them, they're on fire. But you never know. First NCAA tournament game for him. Virginia's offense has just played at a preposterously high level over the past 4 games. They haven't scored fewer than 15 goals since they played Cuse. I mean, they're just unheated. Does it slow down at some point? We always never peak too early. I think that Ohio State comparison you made, it's kind of like living with me a little bit now. Of like Ohio State played that so well in that Big Ten tournament, like blew out Maryland, and then it just came careening down. I don't think that's going to happen to Virginia here. Georgetown isn't that Notre Dame team from last year, but it is kind of giving me a little bit, it's making me question. I mean, some of these teams with that, I think back to those Princeton teams that won the Ivy League tournament. Were like, I remember they won the Ivy League tournament in 2020, in 24. Now they had to win it. Virginia wasn't quite in the same position, and then they played Maryland the first round and they got dump trucked. Michigan won the Big Ten tournament in 2024, then lost it. Like some of these conference tournaments can be deceiving. We talked about it with like different incentives. Virginia definitely had the highest incentive of any team in the ACC tournament. Like no one was moving. Like Notre Dame went from being number 1 to number 2 based on the results of the ACC tournament. Carolina probably honestly stayed in the same spot. Nothing changed. Cuse maybe lost 1 spot, I guess. Virginia went from being unseeded possibly to seeded 5th. Like no one changed their season like Virginia did. So that's why I think Virginia will win. I think this game will be much closer than.
I get a vibe of Yale Georgetown 2019. Georgetown just never would get off of Yale's neck. Just we're just gonna have to shoot our way out of this game.
And that
16, 19.
That game was.
There was a couple calls at the end, and I was like, "What's going on here?" Was that Morocco dropped 7 goals? Like it was an amazing, fun game.
Incredible game.
Yeah, probably was the best. With Townsend, Maryland. That was all the time.
The Georgetown Yale game from a couple years ago, in 2023. That game was, goalie playing that game was subterranean. Georgetown offensively, it's come around. And again, some of that I think you could definitely say is, the opponents for sure. But Georgetown does look if you actually look at the efficiency, Georgetown is better than last year at every spot except for face-off, where they've really fallen off. Ross Prince has mentioned, they're a smidge better on offense, they're a smidge better defensively, and Anderson Moore this year has really played some of his best lacrosse. I don't know, I think you're right. I think this game is going to be a shootout. And I think Georgetown, I wonder if maybe in some ways that does play into Georgetown's hands. Just because, I don't know. It's hard to say. We saw that Maryland game last year where it was like Georgetown could play to midnight and they're never scoring enough goals to beat Maryland. Like it's just they could have played. We could have played that game forever and ever and ever, and Maryland was always going to be 1 or 2 goals ahead. When we've seen Georgetown play their best games in the tournament, I actually feel like win these games, it's actually kind of been through their offense.
Oh yeah,
the Yale game, even last year against Duke, which was that was a really good Duke defensive team, which the bulk of it is still back this year, and Georgetown put 16 on them in Durham.
Yeah,
like look at Georgetown's first round games: 16 goals against Duke. 12 goals against Penn State. Their offense really came big in the second half of that game. 23, 19 goals against Yale. They beat Yale 19-17. I think the inverse was the 2019. I think it was 19. It was 19-17 the other way. 19-16. See, Georgetown the first round has put up some big goals. I think that might be the 23 game against Virginia, which was they lost, but they were they were in it because their offense kept them alive until I remember what was the score that after 3 quarters that was a game, and I'm trying to remember what the score was because what I remember is Georgetown had a man up, might have been a 2-man up at the start of that 3rd quarter, and it was like, all right, if they can score here, they're going to be in with a shot, and they didn't score. They blew the opportunity. Then Virginia came down and scored after 3 quarters. That game was, so it was 11-11 early in the 3rd quarter. Then Virginia scored 4 in a row to go up 15-11. Georgetown got back to 15-12, and then you'll never believe this. Connor Schoenberger scored a goal 17 seconds later. And that was kind of at that point. But yeah, Georgetown had like a two-man up. At some point, it was like, this is, a potential opportunity here. And, they missed the shot. And at that point, that was kind of it. But yeah, even in that game, like, they were in it because of the chance of the offense. I think this is going to be, I think at the end of the day, I don't know if you can really outscore Virginia with how well they're playing. And at home, I'll probably, for that reason, go with the Cavs. But yeah, I think they're, I think this definitely 15 feels, I think the winner's definitely going to hit like 15. Only other one, Penn State Army in there. I think that could be a really good game. This does feel like the Army team that has the, potential to upset, kind of just sneaking their way in. So I could definitely see it happening. But Penn State's kind of the Penn State that played Hopkins in that Big Ten championship, that team can win the national title. If they don't turn the ball over on offense, and can they get good goalie? Preston Hawkins has been really good for a freshman. Can he play well in the tournament? If they do, that team is that team can win the title. All right, that's best first round games. We did most interesting coaches. We have players: Dan Campbell, most approved, and Final Four games.
Most interesting player, just because it's kind of best first round game, most interesting player.
Okay.
And I think the last two are kind of intertwined a little bit. And then the Final Four picks, obviously. Like Spallina?
Yeah, he's number one. Yeah,
he's just the most talked about. We've definitely proven a lot of things, but also with a ton of questions. Best player in the country, but also a lot of people, wonder if like they'll translate to the next level. So and like this year we'll be able to kind of bring it all home. Just has the most variety in how his story can end. And
that's the big thing.
It's just kind of a fascinating ride that he had with so much, fanfare and, kind of coming in right at the NIL, era of the college lacrosse, had the endorsement stuff. Like it was kind of like Mr. Lacrosse kind of got a little bit of chirps out there the first couple of seasons where it seemed to kind of come up big against maybe lesser opponents and not as significant against top level Ds. And like I said, definitely feel like he silenced a lot of critics and criticism last year, and the way he's played this year. But for like kind of towards the tail end, like Cuse was, in that conversation, one of the best teams, and he was rightfully in the Tuorden conversation. Now, not to say that like it's all like, hot air balloon deflating, but it is a bit of like it's not at the height that they were, especially post Maryland. Definitely not. They haven't reached that heights. But kind of up and down nature, the kind of the way that they have not been consistent throughout. There's always this kind of, it's not like one glaring hole. It's just like, how some people will say, oh, somebody steps up in every game. It's like, oh, someone steps down in every game where they lose. So it's just like, you don't really know who. So it's kind of tough to put it on stuff with, the coaching staff. I think Gates done well to, cultivate and foster Spallina's best attributes, but also I think there's probably still some people that know more about the game that can kind of see that there's a lot left on the table that he just doesn't seem to be able to take advantage of. So it just the varied way that his career could end, in just legendary status. He is already number one, right? He beat Mikey. I forget which week, but
yeah.
So he's got that. He potentially has a best chance to get the Tuorden. So he definitely get some hardware there. They've done some things. Got a Final Four. Appearance left. I'm sure to make it back there. So yeah, just so much potentially you could say about Joey's career, and I think it's all kind of going to come into play in like these next few weeks and like how it all ends. Like if he runs it back to the Final Four, I think he'll go down as one of Syracuse's best players, with such lineage there, that's hard to carve your own space there. But it's points leader and true Final Fours if he's able to bring them back. I think he'll go down and be think of quite fondly by Chiefs fans. Don't make it there. It's going to leave it open.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we talked about. It's like if they win, I'm not saying he is the best player in Syracuse history because he's not. Like he's an awesome player. Like Mikey Powell won 2 Toro times. Ryan Powell had, I think, the most productive career if you look at points, like points per game and things like that, of any of them. Casey Powell was obviously a first-team All-American at like 2 different positions, midfield and attack. You've got so many, I didn't mention the Gates. I mentioned his coach, Gary Gates. Yeah, Tom Merritt, like all those guys. Like he's not, but you could argue that he had the most impactful, rewarding career if he's able to get them from where they were in 22 to a national championship when he leaves. Like you could argue that as far as like an impact, Anish I think mentioned this on like when they were talking about Spalina like on one of the games a couple months ago. It's like all those guys came to Syracuse when it was just like in the midst of like it was packed Syracuse. Like they were all came in when there were Final Fours, just an assembly line of them.
2 decades in a row. Yeah,
exactly. It's like by the time the Gates team had even got there, Syracuse was in the midst of that Final Four run. By the time the Powell's done, like they'd followed the Gates, so it's just different. I think he had the most impactful, rewarding career for sure. If he loses it, obviously his critics will have ammunition. I don't think that disputes like that he had an incredible career. He maybe was the best player in the country. Like again, I'll say it. He's outstripped my expectations for him. I knew he was going to be good. I thought he'd be very good. I did wonder if he could be truly like great with just because he's not. There are some physical limitations he has. He doesn't have like his size. At his size, to be to be that kind of unproductive, you do kind of need the Michael Sowers, Joey Sankey kind of like just short line, quick speed.
Yeah, you gotta be Adam Iverson fast or like big boy thick like Dylan. It's kind of shorter than Dylan.
Or you or you need Chris Gray was that kind of stature, but Chris Gray could shoot the ball from freaking anywhere.
He wasn't. Definitely. I know exactly what you're saying. He wasn't at Grant speed, but he was up there.
Chris Gray was definitely quick. Yeah, but like his thing to me was like, just that his stretch, he could stretch you from anywhere, like with the shooting.
Positioning, angles, like the way he could use his body. Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah. Grandeman I was talking about, and then you get into the more like just Pat Spencer, Jared Bernhardt, like CJ Kirst. Those guys just have physical,
Connor Grant speed, or just like absolutely gifted, like 6'4" attackman.
Yeah, and Spalina isn't in that. He's kind of, I would say,
similar. Like Brandel, it's one of those big boy attackmen.
Yeah,
so, I kind of love.
Absolutely. Yeah, and Spalina's probably most, I guess, similar to Pat Cavanaugh.
Yeah,
just like like next level lacrosse IQ, and I wonder if Spalina could like get to sort of like what he's done and the way he's had some big games the past couple of years. Like I didn't know if he could get to be that good, but I think you said that the path that he could go on is kind of the most open. I'll throw number 2 at you. My number 2 was Sean Light.
Brendan? Oh, I thought you were gonna say Brendan.
Brendan's good. I have Brendan at 5. Actually, here's what I'll do. I'll put Brendan at 4. So Sean Light was my number 2. I'll say what. Josh Yago is Notre Dame's leading scorer at 33 points right now. There has not been, let's say he lets Notre Dame plays 4 games, goes to the championship, and he hits his like season marks. He's still probably not going to hit 50 points. Notre Dame hasn't, not Notre Dame, pardon me. No team has won the national championship, but their leading scorer having fewer than 50 points since Johns Hopkins in 2005. That's a different sport. That's just a totally different sport to what we have now. 2-way midfielders, no shot clock, not even a timer on, like just nothing. To me, the sort of like proof of concept around this Notre Dame team is that Sean Light is as impactful as any other player on the field. That him being able to take away your best player is just as impactful as a Spalina or a Princeton's offense with Palumbo and Kabiri and those guys, or Willem Firth, or Brady Wambach at the faceoff dot, or a goalie. It's that that guy being as good as he is at what he does can be the most impactful thing on the field. It's like if Notre Dame's going to win the championship, it's because he is as good as everybody says, maybe even a little better. And so I'm not saying if they don't win that it doesn't mean that he isn't that good, but I do think it's sort of it frames it back towards like you still need an elite offensive player. You still need one hitter. Maryland last year I think was a lot like this. Will Schaller was to me the best defender in the country last year. Even above Van Buren or Light. And Eric Spanos was really good for Maryland. He finished with like 55 points. He wasn't really like in All-American. He wasn't in the top. He was like an honorable mention All-American. Maryland didn't have. It felt like we talked about it, Maryland was one hitter short last year. If Eric Spanos is 5% better, Maryland probably wins the title. And that's not to say like, it's on him. It wasn't. But it's like generally, if you look at the teams that win the title, C.J. Kurse, 25 for Cornell. Pat Cav, 2 years. Maryland 22, Logan. Virginia 21, Connor, Matt Moore. Virginia 2019, Matt Moore, Michael Krause. Yale, Ben Reeves. Maryland, Matt Rambo. Carolina, I guess, is the one sort of, but even then, Chris Cloutier basically played like, a Torreson guy on that weekend. Denver had Cannizzaro, Wes Berg. Duke had Jordan Wolf. Like, I'm going on and on. It's like they have that one guy. Notre Dame doesn't have that really. They have a lot of really good players. They share the reasonably well. They take care of the ball. They don't do themselves. But the proof for Notre Dame is on that defensive side. And so it's like maybe one of these Notre Dame guys just breaks through and has an amazing tournament, kind of like Cloutier did. Or if they're going to win, it's because Sean Light is that good. And so I think that's just an interesting way of thinking about it. It's like, look, I think we both think he's awesome. Notre Dame fans talk about him like, he's the best defender of all time. And it's like if he's in that category, like if they win the title, he can, he can put he's got an argument with any of them. He might win the Torreson. Like you can make a very good case for that. And so I think that's why I put him at number 2. My number 3 were the UNC pair of Josh Marcus and Brady Wambach.
Okay.
Just because I think that to me is like it's UNC. If UNC is going to win, it feels like it's going to ride with Wambach. That he's going to be kind of like what Weirman did for Maryland in 24, where he won like 70% of the faceoffs. Except in this case, it would be with that a greater, more talent than that Maryland team had. And then for Carolina, Marcus has just been up and down. The 2 games against Virginia, really down. That Cuse game, he was up. Freshman goalie in tournament, it's like when Wambach was playing the way he was in March, we just talked about, it felt like they had kind of they protected, they set up like a cocoon around him in Marcus, in goal. Now it's like if Wambach's going to win 60%, your goalie's going to have to make if you win 80%, your goalie might have to make 10 saves. If you win 60%, your goalie's going to have to make 12 to 13 saves. And if you win 50%, we're upping the what's required. And so that to me is what it feels like. It's like we've seen UNC on the offensive defensive side of the ball. They're a good team. I mean, I mentioned a couple weeks ago, they look like identical to the team last year. I think they kind of rest with those in the specialty area. And then Brendan was I have Brendan 4th. I mean, it can be. Pat Spencer was like the uncrowned Torreson winner in 2016.
Yep.
Brendan Millen is like. They might need to give him the U.S. If Virginia gets the Final Four, they give the USILA the Enders Award, the U.S. the coach outstanding player. They give it out the week of the Final Four, so they won't give it out after. I mean, we might need a split. If Virginia gets the Final Four, I don't know. He would, if they win the title, he is truly like the uncrowned. Like they're going to be calling like asterisk. No matter who wins it, they're going to put an asterisk on it if Virginia wins the title.
He freshman year too, right? Didn't he get snubbed? It was the 2017 year.
He got snubbed in He wasn't a finalist in 2018, but Ben Reeves won in 2018, which is like
Oh yeah, but wasn't it a year that because we were all joking free Jeff T Chris was like Chris.
Yeah, well, that was because like Chris did the thing of like was he hyped, and then like I remember I looked it up. I looked up like
pretty good.
Everything like points per game. The problem is that Cornell's only won 4 games. It's like he's playing on a terrible team, but he's averaging. Well, no, because like his point total is kind of low. It's like, well, yeah, because they only played like 12 games.
Just one of the legendary memes that
It was like, yeah, like he averaged, like they only played 13 games. That's why he only had, I don't know, 80 points. Like, how many points did he have in 20? Let's look at that. 2017, Cornell was 5-8. That was Jeff Teat as a freshman. He had 72 points. 72 points in 13 games, which is like 5.5.
Yeah. Jeff Teat. Oh man, those. Were we ever that young?
Yeah, different time. So yeah, I have Brendan at 7. I can't believe I have the most interesting coaches thing up here the whole time. When we haven't been talking about that since then. All right, we've got. Let's do most approve. I kind of had. We kind of already talked about it. Like, I had Princeton.
Ooh.
Is Princeton like as good as we've been talking about? Like, are they, because it feels like the last like 2 weeks, Princeton's sort of, separate. It's like, all right, are you that good? Because this season could end with like we've been talking about, like there's no Cornell of last year, there's no Maryland 22. It's like if Princeton just dump trucks the tournament, like they could, like yes they are, like if Princeton goes through and rolls through this tournament, then yeah, the answer is that they are. Look, they only have 2 losses, which isn't like that'll be more than Cornell. What, Cornell had 1 loss last year.
Can you make an argument since 1 1/4 losses? Really?
Great, yeah, exactly. So I think Princeton in there, kind of quietly. Owen Duffy,
player wise, sure. I was going to say team wise, North Carolina. I thought they must improve.
Duffy, he was a Tewaaraton finalist, but I saw a lot of people were like, should he really have been the Tewaaraton finalist from his own team? I mean, like Wambach has just been more impactful to that team.
He's been most important player.
And Duffy he's very good. No, I mean, like you look at, he's got 38 assists. No one else on Carolina has more than 10. So like he's he's definitely by far the straw that stirs the drink on that team. No question about it. But I do think there is a feeling of like, I saw people mentioning it where it's like we watched that Virginia Carolina game. It was like he was not the best player on the field. It was Brendan. And listen, he played against Houston. He had 6 assists. 7 points. In the first Virginia game, he had 8 points. So I mean, like he's had a great season. I do think there's a feeling though of like, when he broke out as a freshman, it felt like he was the next guy up, and he hasn't quite separated himself like that yet. And I think if Carolina loses in the quarterfinals and he has kind of a quiet tournament, I think it's going to be a bit like, all right, when are you really going to be the guy? Because I felt like that was his ceiling when like when I feel like when he broke out as a freshman, and even I know there are people talking about him like that, even before that. I do think there will be that kind of vibe around it a little bit, I think. And then I also had Gate in there too.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, the Dan Campbell. This might have been our only shot rankings. So let me give you my list, and let me give you the teams that I think just like don't really apply here. Like, these are like, by the way, Marist won the play-in, so Marist in the field of 16. First MAC team into the win a play-in game since Sayers Quinnipiac Bobcats.
Wow.
So Marist, shout out Marist. First NCAA tournament win since 2015.
That was it. I remember that crowd was popping in Marist. Yeah, that home game.
So shout out the Red Fox.
It was kind of a fun game. It wasn't as close, but it was a feisty one, I remember.
So Marist doesn't apply here. Jacksonville doesn't apply here. I don't think Albany really applies. Albany, I get maybe kind of like Silas Richmond Senior. Like, is this the chance? This is their third. So I'll add Albany. I'll add Albany as like 10. Yale, no, they're the opposite. It's a freshman, first back in term. It's a freshman group. From there, Army, I guess you can kind of put maybe in there a little bit. So I'm going to give you my 12. From 12 down. I'm going to go with, this is tough. Hang on. Let me think about this a little bit more. All right, at 12, actually, hang on. Let's do this. At 12, I'll go Albany. Maybe just feel like they're big underdogs, so maybe just get Silas Richmond senior year. This team's been in the tournament 3 straight times. Can they really, get a, over win? I got Army at 11. This is kind of like this senior class at Army has won so many games, and they've now. This does feel like it kind of. I think this getting back to the tournament kind of cements it. I think this kind of feels like, all right, like of this 4-year run, they made the tournament 2 times. Like that's if they had made the tournament this year, I do think they'd be feeling like, man, they've just like left so much on the table. Doesn't quite feel the way now. Maybe like could they win a game? It's a winnable look against Penn State. They're in their best spot seeding wise. If you're like being in that kind of the 8, compared to where they usually are. At 10, I've got Hopkins. They're going to bring a bunch back next year. Next year really feels more like Hopkins, the year they need to make a run. Also, with the injuries they've had, kind of feels like it's a little, taking some of the steam out of it a little bit. So I think Hopkins is 10. I don't think there's I guess a little bit, if they lose in the first round, maybe the pressure is still kind of on them a bit there, but I think Hopkins has kind of done what they needed to do this season. I got Princeton at 9. I just think they're the 1 seed. Actually, you know what? Here we go. I'm going to change this. I'm going to put Princeton actually at. I'm going to go Notre Dame at 9. Younger team, a lot coming back for next year. Already won 2 titles in his pack of run. I guess maybe you could say with Corrigan, like you never know how many more shots, cracks at this he has. And even this staff together, like Wojcik, Corrigan, Wellner, like maybe eventually Wellner and Wojcik start getting head coaching jobs, things like that. All right, at 8, I'm going Duke. A lot of this, maybe a little bit defensively though. They do lose some of the pieces on that defensive side, McGuire, those guys. But they should bring a lot back. My main thing with Duke is just again Dino. How many more cracks at it does Dino really have? Number 7, Princeton. If they don't win it, next year is the year. Like it has to be next year, because after that, it's that's the end for this group. This junior class for Princeton. That's we've been talking about for so long. That next year is the year. Along those lines, North Carolina. Pressure, not quite. Like it's there for them for sure, just because of like how long they've been without winning a tournament game. But next year is really the year for UNC, where it's like, all right, you kind of got to do this. At number 4, I have hang on. Crap, I forgot about Virginia. Virginia, I'll put Virginia in Duke's spot. Maybe. Yeah, 7. Virginia's gonna bring a lot of this back. You get both the Millen brothers back. There's another run. Number 4, I got Penn State. It's not like a total, like they got a lot of young pieces. Like it's not like this is a big senior class or anything like that. I do just think Penn State though, every year kind of when's it going to be for them? They're at that kind of point now where you kind of have to ask the question every sort of year, like is this it? And I think they've got a team that can do it this year. And every time you have a team you feel like could do it, you miss your shot. You miss, it gets harder and harder to eventually break through. So I don't know if this is like the year, but I still think there's pressure on them. Kind of every chance they have, every time they have a team that's capable.
Without those bad losses, they may be North Carolina's spot, and then that 3 seed.
Without how many? Without how many of the bad losses? Like all of them?
I would say maybe 2.
Without 2 of them, if they have only
the
one
win over Princeton, the win over Cornell, the Yale win, the Carolina loss was bad.
If
Carolina would have had the head-to-head.
If you take out their bad losses, I think they're the number 1 seed.
Yeah, and then I guess only I don't want to say legit loss, but then
if their only losses are to Hopkins and North Carolina, they would have 7 top 20 wins. Maybe they'd be. I mean, the thing is, where would they be in RPI? Like they might have been number 1 RPI. Like they're ninth in RPI with 5 losses.
With 3 handballs on their ankle, hold them down underwater.
Yeah, like they would definitely be in the top 3. I think with in that mix. And along those lines, number 3, I have Georgetown.
Ooh.
It's
the Connors. We'll get one back.
Rory Connor is. I think Rory Connor's up. I think he's. Liam Connor, I think, has the. Another year. Go ahead.
No, I said you're right. I think it's got another year.
Yeah, Liam Connor's got another year. Rory Connor though is up after this year. You also have some they bring a good amount of this back. So this isn't this has to be again. It's just it would be a case next year would be because it'd be Liam Connor's last year, it'd be Anderson Moore's last year, Ty Banks last year, and just again the pressure from the expectations this year, how close they were, feeling like they filled the spots that they needed to, that they put the team together, and it's again, how long can you really bump up your head against that wall before they're the team? They're just in a weird spot. To me, it's like they're so dominant within that league, and yet they have such a ceiling on them. How long can you bump up against that ceiling before eventually maybe it just all kind of breaks? That kind of happened to Uric. It was in the quarterfinals forever and forever and forever and forever, and then they missed the tournament one time, and that was just kind of it. And they never got back. And it kind of, you could feel it was like they weren't bad teams. The 2010 team, we always mentioned, could have been in the tournament. That was the team that definitely got him fired. But he had a big recruiting class that kind of came in around that time, 2008, and then that recruiting class never really materialized. I'm not saying this is going to happen to Warren, but it's just how often can you butt up against the ceiling before it eventually just weighs you down? And it doesn't feel like it because the Big East looks, more mortal than it's ever looked. But I do think eventually there's just the vibe it's got to happen, right? Before, or I don't think Warren would I'm not saying Warren's going to leave, but you maybe look around, if jobs come open, if you just feel like you're at a ceiling. So them and Penn State are the 2 teams right now that feels like have the biggest ceiling on them. Penn State trying to get past that semifinal and win the title, and Georgetown in the quarterfinals. And so I think when you've got that ceiling, it's big. My top 2, honestly, this really is just a top 2. These are the 2 teams that just so obviously it's this is the run. Number 2 is Richmond. Are you ever going to have a team as good as this?
It's an overwhelming dominant team also in play. Yeah, exactly. All the factors.
Exactly. Yeah, it's O'Neal senior, Joe Sheridan's a senior, Charlie senior, 3 seniors on that offensive side. Jack Pilling, Hunter Smith, they've got I basically I did this. Here's what I think about it. If I told you the preseason top 5 next year, how many teams do you mention in the mix for next year's championship before you get to Richmond? Princeton, UNC, Notre Dame, Cornell, Virginia, Hopkins. You figure Maryland will always be back in there. Duke. And it's like, I'm naming a lot of teams before I'm naming Richmond. Like, this, I'm not saying Richmond, well, do I think Richmond will make the tournament next year? Probably, yeah. But is it going to be this team? And Adam mentioned, it's like, last year you got to the quarterfinals and you pushed Cornell more than any other team. You could have they could have taken Cornell down last year. Like, it was on the table. And couldn't quite get over the hump. It's like, now you have a better team than you did last year. It's got to be one step further. You're playing your first home game in school history. Like, it's our first, home playoff game. It's got to be there, I think. I think it's their team where it's like, now they aren't like the championship, but the Final Four, it's got to be the Final Four. Or I think it's got to be a little disappointing. You've already made a quarterfinal. Like, you've already done that. You've already played competitively in a quarterfinal. You lost by 1 goal. It's the Final Four is it. Even especially the Chamati thing. It's like, if you make a Final Four, it could change it. Like, Chamati might be like, you know what, I'm set. I can do it here. You prove it. Once you prove it can happen, it's always there.
Yeah.
It changes the whole thing for you. It's possible. And so I think, whereas if you don't, it's again, how long do you get a chance like this? Number one is Syracuse. It's just not even like, it's the most obvious. It's the most obvious, like, clear senior, like, wow, we really have to do this. Since probably maybe Rambo's team.
I was going to say the 2021 team.
Which 21 team?
The joke, the national title.
21 team. Yeah, I mean,
national title defending team.
Yeah. I mean, that team and the expectations destroyed that team.
They're the defending national champion.
Yeah, that's a good. I mean, that was the last team that was like national championship or bust. It was like, oh well, that's all right. Yeah, bust.
What's it flush?
Bust. Yeah, total bust.
And I would say, team wise, maybe coaching staff wise, like this is the team that kind of built for this. But again, not Gate recruited entirely, but he took over it. Incoming monster class. I think you would really have a really good candidate in assistant coach. I mean, I know I have my favorite coaches out there, but Odinera is definitely first. We've already extended the invitation to the Safe Coaches Club. We're gonna do the induction ceremony in the off season. But the success you do have will attract people, and there maybe potentially some good jobs out there. So this unit, they already lost Petro. Maybe you can argue they got an upgrade with Odinera and how the defense has been post Petro. But you're right. The team wise, absolutely, this is it. Senior studded team, Spalina's final rodeo. So we got that. But also just if opportunities come in and that success, you kind of see what happened to other coaches out there. You lose your top lieutenants routinely. So it's kind of all or nothing this year.
It has to be. It's all. You're not going to get another shot at that for another probably 2 years. And at that point, Gate will be in the tenure a little bit, and that's like the pressure and everything, the whole dynamic of because Gate's kind of been on this, we talk about Gate and Milliman kind of being in that similar position before they came in. Like, it's only really so far for Gate been up. Like, the first year was terrible, but he came into a bad spot. That was a bad situation to come into. They went from 4 wins to 8 with that freshman class. Then they went from 8 wins. They made the quarterfinal. Then they went from the quarterfinal to the Final Four. So even if people have their questions, he's only just gotten better. Now it's like, what if it gets worse? Or what if it doesn't get better? It's like, that is the whole dynamic flips of the tenure. Absolutely. There you go. The number one, Dan Campbell, this might run a shot, is Syracuse. They're the team. Richmond in there as well. All right, Safe, last one. Final 4 games you most want to see. So this could be semifinal. This could be final. which ones do you most want to see? I'll let you have the first pick. If you could draw up the games you most want to see in the Final Four, Scott Stadium.
I mean, I would love the Virginia Princeton. I think it would just like.
I have that. Yeah, that's 3.
Kind of wake up the echoes, the Starja, Tierney eras, peak Tierney, like ascended Starja, just the wars that they had. I would love, honestly, Penn State Duke rematch.
Ooh.
Just to, two programs like kind of waywardly find their way to the semis, Duke kind of, unheralded, mocked, and getting in, not barely because, they weren't the last team, but got in kind of like at the last weekend for them, definitely last, playing weekend. That's how they got in. Penn State with the roller coaster way that they played this year, super highs, really kind of bad lows. Meeting again in Charlottesville, last time they played, it was such controversy. I remember being in the press conference, post game presser with Tams, and the amount of class and the restraint that he showed. I mean, it was commendable. Like we were talking about shame, but there's definitely, we also need a little bit more class in this world. We need a lot more shame. We need people to feel a lot more shame, but also just like being able to like take a bad loss and deal with it in a dignified and process it in a, healthy way without just like popping your mouth off, like throwing everybody under the, rightfully so. Like Philly fans were not, taking kindly to that, ending. Yeah, with I've never seen like trash. Like it was an Eagles game. The refs had to run off the field. It was amazing. The unfortunate that people had to, go a little bit that far. But yeah, the atmosphere was that would be great for me. I would love to see that. Maybe also for Tams, like getting over that hump, getting to Memorial Day, and then potentially getting rid of that moniker of being the best coach without a title. Honestly, also, just to see them get there, Georgetown versus anybody. Yeah, on the other side, like I just like we love this Hoyas team. Love Warren. Had a great time at the camp. I've been there 2 games, in the last few years. Like, kind of always just kind of been the darling, but yeah, eventually get a little bit long in the tooth. Like eventually, got to do something, and it's just like can't just be the darling anymore. And it's like maybe the moment's passed.
We passed like multiple phases with them. We went from them being the darling, we passed that. Then we passed the like everybody beating up on them phase because they weren't like we're past that at this point.
I was gonna say it was like pre-COVID, they were still kind of a because they never really reciting, kind of fun. Then they got the real darling when they had the run, the big year, and then subsequently like the next year it was even better, and then losing the first round.
It's like we've passed like everything. I don't know what phase we're even in at this point. Like if you're right, it's like it is getting a bit like if they don't make the Final Four this year, I do think like even if they beat Virginia, I like it's gonna be kind of like it was last year. Where it's like they beat Duke and it was like, man, what a great performance. I remember I mentioned it was a culture win for that first round win. Then lost to Maryland. It was just kind of like okay, it's like there's this senior class will have lost in the quarterfinals their entire career. Like it'll have been 4, which has happened before at Georgetown because I don't need to mention and listen, if they win against Virginia, it's going to be the same thing. We'll mention again there. It is, Jesus, this is nuts. 11 straight quarterfinal losses, which is insane. And of course, listen, like Warren's record in the first round is 4-3, and of course 4-1 in the last 5 years with the one they should have won. Most being the loss there. So, yeah, you're right. It's like we're past every point. At this point, it is. You're right. Long in the tooth is a great way of putting it. It's like, all right, like
of 13 quarterfinal trips, Jake. How many Final Fours are there? You may be on the Wikipedia. Yeah, right. That's Not just in the row, but yeah, just absolutely it got 98 in 2000. Just like
Yeah, it's
that is Sisyphean. Like 99.
absolutely. And in all types of, Virginia's been there a bunch. They've lost some 1-goal games in there. They caught like multiple 1-goal games to Cuse, I think. So, a 1-goal game to Maryland. Yeah, it's at some point it's just that's my thing. It's like it is a little old at this point. So we'll see. All right, my number one was Princeton and Cuse.
Oh yeah,
Like
you're gonna waken up with the Echoes.
Yeah, can Cuse finally do it? Princeton, not as much drama as if Princeton hadn't beaten them already, but that'd be in there. Number 2, this feels like a layup. Virginia and Cuse.
Oh yeah.
In that rivalry and that, have they ever played a championship game? Yes, I think 99. Virginia's first championship. Stars' first when they beat Cuse in 99. I think that's the only one I can really recall though. Even of their because 03 Virginia beat. Yeah, because Virginia hasn't lost the championship game. And so but 99 was the one. Number 3, I had Princeton, Virginia. I think that'd be other one. Virginia's on a lot of these. If it's somehow Virginia Hopkins, which probably not, but that'd be pretty cool. That's Virginia Hopkins was down there. Number 4 for me was Richmond, Notre Dame.
Championship. Oh yeah,
Richmond. Yeah, could Richmond go all the way? Anything with Richmond, I think in here is just up there. They could bring some fans and just the kind of they'd capture a lot of attention from sports fans. Like if they can get there, it'd be an incredible story. Hopkins Cuse semifinal would be cool.
I do wish that they split them in Virginia. So if there was a possibility that they meet in the Final Four, just for the crowd pop,
That would be pretty cool. Number 6, a Penn State Cornell championship, possibly. Cornell goes for back-to-back. Tam's trying to finally get over the hump. I think that'd be pretty cool. So those are the ones for me. Anything for Virginia, obviously, you want to see. Princeton, there's a couple really dynamic ones with Princeton in there. Princeton, Cuse, Princeton, Virginia. So those are the ones I got. All right, Safe, anything else?
No, man, we hit them all.
All right. There we go. Good stuff. All right, friends. If you're watching this video on YouTube, make sure you are subscribed to thecrosscommission.com on YouTube. Make sure you smash the like button on this video. Make sure you tune in this Saturday. We'll be live after the Richmond Duke game goes final. So after the Richmond Duke game goes final, we will be live this Saturday, breaking down all of Saturday's games. Your schedule for this weekend is as follows, as all the first round games are now set. Saturday at, where'd that go? Just X'd out of all right. Saturday at 12 o'clock on ESPNU is Albany versus North Carolina in the first game. 2:30, somewhere about 2:30 on ESPNU, Army versus Penn State from State College. 5 o'clock on ESPNU, Hopkins versus Cornell. 7:30, the nightcap on ESPNU, Duke versus Richmond. On Sunday, noon on ESPNU is Jacksonville versus Notre Dame. 2:30 p.m. Sunday, Marist versus Princeton. At 5 o'clock on ESPNU, it's Yale versus Syracuse. Syracuse finally being able to finding out that Syracuse actually doesn't have to play the last game on Sunday this whole time. Actually, it's kind of I'm starting to be a little suspicious now. It's like really, it's like everything I've been told was a lie. It's like Syracuse has to play that one game. It's like, oh, actually, well, no, we can play 2 hours earlier too. That's fine. It's like I don't know.
What about graduation?
It doesn't seem like it's a factor now. 5 o'clock on ESPNU, Yale, Syracuse, and then the nightcap from Klockner, Georgetown, Virginia, Sunday night. The biggest, like, Sunday night, they usually kind of, it's like usually a low key end to the weekend, since Cuse hadn't been in that spot, it's generally been a pretty. I guess that Loyola Denver game, remember that a couple years ago, was pretty lit. But usually it's been pretty low key. This will not be. I think it'll be anything but low key. Finish that one. All right, friends. Smash the like button on YouTube if you're listening to Smash the podcast, doing what you're doing. Tell your friends. We'll be live Saturday to break down all the first round games. We hope you enjoy it. It's the best weekend of the year. First round of the tournament. Women's tournament as well starts Friday night. Tune into those games as well. We will see you out there. Thank you, Mr. President. Stay hydrated. Take care.